Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I see what this is. Walk in here with the uniform. Everybody's supposed to just nod and let you through, like you earned it.
My credentials are valid. You've seen them.
I don't care what that says. I've been here 12 years. I know who actually works for this and who just gets pushed through.
I am.
DEI hire, fast track. Now you're a pilot.
That's not a line.
Radio static crackles briefly.
By the time the confrontation started, the tension had already been building for months. TSA officer Rhett Carraway had watched the same pilot rise through the ranks, gain recognition, and earn a position he didn't think he deserved. So when that pilot walked through his checkpoint that day, the interaction didn't begin as routine. It began with bias, and it would end with consequences no one could ignore. If you want to see how this unfolded step by step and how one moment exposed everything, make sure you subscribe and stay with this story. It was just after 6:40 a.m. at Detroit Metropolitan Airport. The morning rush was already in motion, rolling suitcases, boarding calls echoing overhead, TSA lines moving in steady waves. Darian Okoye, 38, walked toward the crew screening lane in full uniform, navy jacket pressed clean, gold stripes visible on his sleeve, ID badge clipped high on his chest. He had flown international routes for years, logged thousands of hours, recently promoted. That morning he was scheduled for a transatlantic departure. Everything about his movement was routine, calm, focused, efficient. He placed his bag on the belt, stepped forward, and nodded slightly toward the officer at the podium. That officer was Rhett Carraway. 12 years on the job, same terminal, same post, watching people come and go, but his attention didn't move like the others. It locked, right on Darian. Rhett didn't greet him, didn't scan immediately. He just stared for a second too long, eyes narrowing slightly, like he was trying to place something, or reject it entirely. Then he spoke. "Hold up, don't step through yet." Darian paused, calm. "Is there an issue?" Rhett stepped closer than necessary, one hand resting near the scanner, the other gesturing slightly downward. "Yeah, there is. Let me see that again." Darian lifted his ID, holding it steady. Rhett glanced at it briefly, then back at Darian's face, then back at the ID. His tone shifted, sharper now. "Is this yours?" Darian didn't react to the tone. "Yes, it is." Rhett exhaled through his nose, shaking his head slightly. "All right, because I'm looking at this and I'm not seeing how it lines up." A couple of passengers in the adjacent lane slowed down, glancing over. Darian kept his voice even. "What exactly doesn't line up?" Rhett ignored the question. "Where are you flying out to?" "London. Departure in—" "I didn't ask for all that. Just answer what I asked." There was a brief pause. Darian lowered his hand slightly, but didn't break eye contact. "I just did." Rhett leaned in a little closer now, voice low but aggressive. "Yeah, see, that's the problem right there. You're talking like everything's normal." Another beat, then louder this time. "Step out of line, now." The words landed hard enough that a few people nearby stopped moving completely. Darian didn't argue. He stepped to the side, controlled, measured, keeping his posture straight. His flight cap remained tucked under his arm, his ID still visible against his chest. Rhett followed him immediately, not giving space, positioning himself slightly in front like he was blocking movement. "Bag stays right there," Rhett said, pointing back toward the belt, even though it had already stopped moving. Darian nodded once. "That's fine." Rhett looked him up and down again, slower this time, almost deliberate. "You said London, right?" "Yes." "What airline?" Darian answered without hesitation. "Atlantic Meridian." Rhett gave a short, dismissive scoff under his breath. "Uh-huh." A pause. Then, "Go ahead and take that jacket off." Darian blinked once, confused but composed. "Is there a reason?" Rhett's expression tightened instantly. "Because I said so, that's the reason." The tone drew more attention now. A woman 2 lanes over slowed, pulling her phone out halfway like she wasn't sure yet if she should record. Darian removed his jacket calmly, folding it once over his arm. Rhett didn't take it, didn't inspect it, just glanced at the stripes, then back at Darian. "You been flying long?" "Yes." "How long is long?" "Several years." Rhett tilted his head slightly like he didn't believe it. "Several, huh?" Another TSA agent, Evan Kennedy, stepped closer from the adjacent lane, drawn by the tension. "You good over here?" Evan asked, quietly. Rhett didn't look at him. "Yeah, I got it." Then, louder, "Let me see your credentials again." Darian handed them over this time. Rhett took them, but instead of scanning, he just held them, staring. Seconds passed. Then he shook his head again. "Something's off." Darian's voice stayed level. "You've looked at it twice. If there's a specific issue, you can tell me." Rhett ignored that completely. "Where'd you train?" "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Where'd you train at?" Darian answered. "Stateside. Completed certification in—" Rhett cut him off again, sharper this time. "Yeah, I'm going to need you to stop talking like you're in control here." Evan shifted slightly, clearly uncomfortable now, eyes moving between both men. Darian took a breath, steady. "I'm not trying to control anything. I'm trying to understand why I'm being held." Rhett stepped closer again, lowering his voice just enough to make it more pointed. "Because people like you don't just walk through here and expect everything to check out." There was a brief silence after that. It hung there, clear enough. Darian didn't respond immediately. Evan looked at Rhett, then back at Darian. That's when Rhett reached for his radio. "Yeah," he said, pressing it in. "I'm going to need another unit over here. I've got a situation at crew screening." He released the button, eyes still locked on Darian, and this time he didn't even try to hide it. "Because I don't think you're supposed to be where you say you are." The words didn't just hang, they shifted the entire space around them. A couple of passengers stopped completely now. One of them, Taryn Bell, had her phone fully raised, recording without trying to hide it. The low hum of the checkpoint didn't stop, but it changed. People were watching. Darian stayed still, shoulders squared. "My credentials are valid," he said, calm, direct. "You can verify that without holding me here." Rhett didn't respond to that. He was already moving. "Open the bag," he said, pointing sharply toward the carry-on sitting on the belt. Darian turned, unzipped it, and stepped back. "Go ahead." Rhett stepped in immediately, rough with it, zippers pulled harder than necessary, contents shifted without care. Uniform items, documents, neatly packed essentials, all handled like they didn't matter. Evan Kennedy stood just behind him now, watching closely. "Rhett," Evan started, low. Rhett cut him off without looking. "I said I got it." He pulled out a folder, flipped through it quickly, then dropped it back into the bag without organizing it. "Yeah, this isn't adding up." Darian's voice didn't change. "What exactly isn't adding up?" Rhett stood upright again, turning back toward him. "All of it." That was the moment it stopped being vague, because this wasn't new, not for Rhett. For 12 years he had worked that same terminal, same lanes, same uniforms passing through. He had seen the changes happen slowly, new hires, new faces, new policies, and years ago, when the airport brought in one of its first black pilots, an immigrant, highly trained, clearly qualified, Rhett noticed that too. He never said anything then, kept it to himself, watched from a distance, but he never accepted it. And over time, that quiet resentment didn't go away, it built. Every promotion, every acknowledgement, every time that same pilot walked through in uniform like he belonged there. Then months ago, when that same pilot, Darian Okoye, was promoted and started earning more, gaining more authority, that was it. That was where it shifted. Back in the present, Rhett's tone hardened even more. "You expect me to believe you just walk in here dressed like that and everything checks out?" Darian met his stare. "I don't need you to believe anything. I need you to do your job." That hit something. Rhett stepped forward fast, closing the space between them. "Watch how you talk to me." Evan shifted again, more tense now. "Hey!" Rhett raised a hand slightly, stopping him without even turning. Then, louder, so everyone could hear it this time. "You people always think once you put something on, it makes you untouchable." There it was. Clear, direct, no room to misinterpret. A reaction moved through the small crowd, subtle but real. Taryn's phone stayed locked on him. Darian didn't raise his voice, but his tone changed now. "You need to be very careful with what you're implying." Rhett didn't back off. If anything, he leaned in closer. "Or what?" he asked. A pause. Then footsteps approached from behind, another presence entering the scene. And Rhett didn't even look. He just said, "Good. Took you long enough." The footsteps stopped just behind Rhett. "All right, what's going on here?" The voice was firm, controlled, but not aggressive. Rhett didn't turn right away. He kept his eyes on Darian. "Got a situation," he said. "Credentials aren't lining up. He's giving me inconsistent answers." That wasn't true, but he said it like it was already decided. Darian didn't react to the claim. He stayed still, watching. Then the new presence stepped forward into view. Lenora Vance. She had been moving through the terminal for a routine operations check when she noticed the crowd forming near crew screening. That alone was unusual, but what she saw when she stepped closer made her stop immediately. Her eyes went straight to Darian. Recognition was instant. "Captain Okoye," she said, surprised but steady. That was the first crack. Rhett finally turned his head slightly. "You know him?" he asked, tone already defensive. Lenora didn't take her eyes off Darian. "Yes," she said, "he's one of ours." A pause. Then she shifted her attention fully to Rhett. "Why is he being held?" Rhett straightened up, trying to regain control of the narrative. "Like I said, something's off. I've checked his ID multiple times. It's not lining up." Lenora's expression didn't change. "In what way?" Rhett hesitated, just for a second. Then he doubled down. "Doesn't match what I'm seeing in front of me." That line didn't land the way he expected. Lenora stepped closer now, positioning herself between them slightly, not blocking, but clearly inserting authority. "Let me see the ID." Rhett held on to it for a second longer than necessary, then handed it over. Lenora scanned it quickly. Her eyes moved once, from the badge to Darian and back again. Everything checked out. She handed it back without hesitation. "It's valid." Rhett shook his head immediately. "No, something's not right here." Lenora's tone sharpened just slightly. "You've run it?" "I don't need to run it to see—" "That's exactly what you need to do," she cut in, calm but firm. There was a brief silence. Evan Kennedy shifted again, now clearly watching Rhett more than Darian. The pressure was changing, but Rhett didn't adjust. Instead, he took a step forward again, voice rising. "I've been here 12 years. I know when something doesn't look right." Lenora didn't move. "And what exactly doesn't look right?" she asked. Rhett didn't answer immediately. His eyes flicked toward Darian for a second, then back to her. This whole situation. That wasn't enough. Lenora held her ground. "No, be specific." Another pause. Rhett's jaw tightened, because now he was being pushed to say it clearly, and instead of stepping back, he leaned into it. "You really telling me you're just going to take his word for it, just like that?" Lenora's expression hardened. "I'm telling you I recognize one of my pilots," she said. That should have ended it. It didn't. Rhett let out a short, dry laugh, shaking his head. "Yeah, that's the problem right there." The air shifted again, because now it wasn't just about Darian, it was about everything Rhett was refusing to accept, and he wasn't backing down. "Yeah, that's the problem right there." The moment Rhett said it, the tension snapped tighter. Lenora didn't respond right away. She studied him for a second, measured, controlled, like she was deciding how far this had already gone. Behind them, more people had stopped. Taryn's phone was still up, steady, capturing everything. A few passengers whispered to each other, eyes locked on the scene. Darian hadn't moved, but now his stance was firmer, less accommodating. "Officer," he said, voice even, "you've checked my ID, searched my bag, and questioned me repeatedly. At this point, I need to proceed to my gate." Rhett turned sharply. "No, you don't. You move when I say you move." Evan Kennedy exhaled quietly, tension visible now. "Rhett, he's cleared," Evan said, low but direct. "We've seen the ID." Rhett didn't even look at him. "I didn't ask you," he said. Then back to Darian. "You're not going anywhere until I'm done here." Lenora stepped in again, voice firmer now. "This is done. You've exceeded protocol." Rhett let out a short laugh, shaking his head. "Protocol?" he repeated. "You think I'm worried about protocol right now?" That was the shift. He wasn't even trying to mask it anymore. His voice rose, sharper, louder, pulling even more attention. "I've seen this before. People walking in here like they own the place, expecting everyone to just step aside." Darian's eyes narrowed slightly. "What exactly are you implying?" he asked. Rhett stepped closer again, pointing a finger toward Darian's chest, too close, too aggressive. "I'm saying you don't look like someone who should be flying anything." There it was, clear, direct, no room left. A few audible reactions came from the crowd now, low but unmistakable. Evan shifted forward immediately. "All right, that's enough," he said, more firmly this time. "You need to step back." Rhett turned on him fast. "Stay out of it." Lenora didn't raise her voice, but her tone cut through everything. "You need to remove yourself from this interaction, now." Rhett ignored her, completely. Instead, he reached for Darian's bag again, yanking it off the belt and dropping it onto the inspection table with force. "Empty it." Darian didn't move. "No," he said, calmly, "then stop giving unlawful instructions." That hit, hard. For a split second, Rhett looked like he might escalate even further. Then, "Step back from him." The voice came from behind, deeper, controlled, final. Everyone turned slightly. Marcellus Hodge had arrived. He took one look at the scene, the crowd, the phones, Lenora standing firm, Evan tense, and then at Rhett. His expression didn't change, but his next words did everything. "I'm going to need your badge, right now." For the first time since this started, Rhett didn't respond immediately. He stood there, shoulders tight, eyes shifting briefly between Marcellus Hodge and Darian, like he was trying to decide whether to push back one more time. "Supervisor," Rhett said, forcing a steadier tone, "you don't have the full situation here. This isn't what it looks like." Marcellus didn't move closer, didn't raise his voice. "I've seen enough," he said. That was it. Rhett let out a breath through his nose, jaw tightening. His hand hovered near his chest for a second. Then slowly, reluctantly, he unclipped his badge. The small metallic sound of it coming free was louder than it should have been. He placed it in Marcellus's hand. Around them, the tension shifted again, but this time it released slightly. Not completely, but enough. Marcellus turned slightly toward Evan. "Agent Kennedy, you're with me. We're documenting this." Evan nodded immediately. "Yes, sir." Then Marcellus looked at Rhett again. "Step away from the checkpoint." Rhett hesitated, but this time he listened. He stepped back. Not far, but far enough to no longer be in control. Lenora didn't waste time. She turned to Darian. "Captain, are you all right?" she asked. Darian gave a small nod. "I'm fine." But his tone carried weight now. Not shaken, controlled, but aware of what had just happened. Lenora gestured toward the cleared lane. "You're good to proceed. I'll notify your crew." Darian picked up his belongings, adjusting his jacket back over his arm. The contents of his bag were still slightly out of place, but he didn't stop to fix them. He paused briefly, not looking at Rhett, but aware of him. Then he moved forward, back into the flow of the terminal. Behind him, Marcellus was already speaking to Evan in low, direct tones. "Everything from the start. Timeline, statements, witnesses," he said. Evan nodded immediately. "Yes, sir." Then Marcellus looked at Rhett again. "Effective immediately, you're off duty pending investigation." Rhett didn't argue, didn't respond, but his expression said enough. This wasn't over. Not for him. Because what had just unfolded at that checkpoint was no longer an incident, it was evidence, and once it was reviewed, everything would change. By the end of that day, the footage had already started circulating internally. Multiple angles, clear audio, no gaps. From the moment Rhett Carraway stopped Darian Okoye to the exact words he chose when the situation escalated. There was no confusion about what happened, and more importantly, no way to explain it away. Within 48 hours, TSA administration opened a formal investigation. Statements were collected from staff, including Evan Kennedy and Marcellus Hodge. Airline reports were submitted by Lenora Vance. Passenger recordings, especially Taryn Bell's, were reviewed in full. Every version of the story matched. Rhett Carraway had initiated the stop without cause. He ignored valid identification. He escalated beyond protocol. And when challenged, he made it personal. That part carried the most weight, because once investigators dug deeper, the incident didn't stand alone. There were prior complaints. Nothing as public, nothing this direct, but enough to show a pattern: subtle targeting, unnecessary delays, selective enforcement. It hadn't been proven before. Now it was. The promotion Darian received months earlier was also noted during the review, not as a factor in policy, but as context. It explained timing. It explained escalation. It showed this wasn't random. It was building. By the end of the investigation, the conclusion was clear. Rhett Carraway had violated multiple conduct policies, abused his authority, and demonstrated behavior that disqualified him from continuing in his position. His employment was terminated. His federal security credentials were revoked permanently. 12 years on the job ended by one incident that exposed everything behind it. Darian Okoye, on the other hand, returned to work the very next day. No statement, no public reaction. He completed his scheduled flight, maintained his record, and continued doing exactly what he had been doing long before that checkpoint: his job. The difference now was that what happened didn't stay quiet. It was seen, recorded, reviewed, and acted on. Because in a place built on structure, protocol, and authority, one moment of bias was enough to break it all. If you made it this far, you already know situations like this don't start in one moment. They build over time. Subscribe to the channel for more story-driven breakdowns like this, where we don't skip details and we don't look away from what actually happened.